I want to share my really interesting theory about Chapter 35 of Boruto, but the more I kept going back to certain scenes in 2 Blue Vortex, the harder it became to shake the feeling that the authors may have hidden a very important clue right in front of us. And if this theory turns out to be correct, then Chapter 35 could give us one of the most unexpected twists in the entire story. I think Code is actually going to kidnap Sarada Uchiha, but the most interesting part isn't even the kidnapping itself. What's much more interesting is understanding why it could happen right now, and why the setup for this moment may have started many chapters ago. Real quick before we begin, if you're enjoying the video even a little bit, do me a huge favor and hit that subscribe button right now. I'm trying to hit 500 subscribers, and honestly, every single person who subscribes keeps me going. I pour everything into these videos for you guys, and the only way I can keep making them every single day is if you help me out. The secret lies in the earlier chapters. When I first read Chapter 12 of 2 Blue Vortex, my attention was completely focused. Sarada showed excellent reactions. The scene worked as a tense clash between two powerful characters. But after rereading the chapter, I noticed something strange. It almost feels like the manga deliberately wants us to pay attention to the physical contact between Hidari and Sarada. And this is where things start getting really interesting, because this is a storytelling technique the authors have already used before. If we go back to the first part of Boruto, we can find an almost identical precedent. In Chapter 65, Code held Shikamaru hostage. At the time, that scene seemed like nothing more than a normal part of the conflict. However, it was later revealed that during that brief moment of physical contact, Code secretly left a claw mark on Shikamaru. That's exactly what makes this ability so dangerous. According to the canon, claw marks aren't something people immediately notice. A person simply continues with their life, completely unaware that they've already become part of someone else's plan. Ikemoto has already shown just how effective this tactic can be. Later, that very mark allowed Code to infiltrate Amato's heavily protected laboratory. In reality, his entire plan succeeded because of an action that nobody noticed when it happened. And that's exactly why the scene with Sarada feels so suspicious. During the confrontation in Chapter 12, Hidari appears through a claw mark and repeatedly makes contact with Sarada using his wooden arm throughout the battle. For most readers, the fight ends there. By the way, I wanted to mention that somewhere near the end of this video, a piece of text referencing the topic of my next video will appear, so make sure you watch carefully all the way through. Now let's continue. What if Hidari's goal was never to defeat Sarada? What if the real objective was to leave a mark behind? This is where my theory starts to sound surprisingly believable. Sarada doesn't possess the Byakugan, and she isn't a sensory-type shinobi on Ino's level, so she wouldn't be able to detect or see a hidden mark. On top of that, in the middle of an intense battle, nobody is paying attention to details like that. Many fans view Hidari and Code as completely independent players, but if we remember the origin of the Shinju, it becomes clear that their powers are connected much more closely than it first appears. The Shinju were created through the 10 tails that Code modified, and that naturally raises an important question. If Hidari can create claw-like pathways through his Rinnegan, could Code also use those entry points that Hidari leaves behind? Maybe he can, because the manga has already shown us enough evidence to suggest that possibility. Too many details seem to fit together into a single picture. What's more, the canon has already established that claw marks aren't limited to transportation. They can also be used to gather information, eavesdrop on conversations, and monitor targets. And if we look at Hidari's personality, this theory becomes even more convincing. Even though he is technically his own individual, his connection to Sasuke can be felt constantly. His interest in Sarada doesn't seem accidental at all. The manga repeatedly emphasizes this strange emotional attachment. That's why secretly observing Sarada through a hidden mark feels like a completely logical development. And don't forget to leave a like if you're enjoying the video. It really helps me understand how much you like this kind of content, and it motivates me more than you can imagine. But now, we get to the most interesting part. The clue may have been sitting right in front of us this entire time, and I'm talking about the cover of Chapter 34. Most readers were discussing the aftermath of Mamushi's defeat I don't believe that's a coincidence. The Naruto franchise has repeatedly shown that Kishimoto and Ikemoto love using visual symbolism and subtle foreshadowing. Sometimes a single illustration carries more meaning than an entire page of manga. Because of that, I'm not ready to dismiss the cover as a random coincidence. If we treat it as a hint, a very interesting picture begins to emerge. Code is literally standing inside a structure that resembles Hidari's marks, almost as if the authors are quietly revealing the blueprint of a future operation ahead of time. But the true foundation of this theory comes from Kashin Koji's prophecy. After the events of Chapter 34, the favorable future timeline was essentially destroyed. Bug's soul was lost, Code escaped, and the opportunity to change the situation disappeared. That means some of the more positive timelines have effectively ceased to exist. Koji previously spoke about multiple possible futures, and among them was a scenario in which Code shifts his focus towards Sarada and uses her as leverage against Boruto. At the time, that possibility felt like just one option among many, but now the situation looks very different. That's exactly why the chances of that second scenario becoming reality have increased dramatically, especially when we consider Code's current position in the story. For a large portion of the series, Code has been portrayed as a character who constantly fails. His plans collapse. His victories never last. For a main antagonist, that's a serious problem, and that's precisely why Sarada's kidnapping feels like such a logical move. He needs a moment that forces readers to see him as a genuine threat again. He needs an action that completely changes the game. Sarada is perfectly suited for that kind of role. She matters to Boruto, she matters to Konoha, and she matters to the future of the entire shinobi world. That's why her disappearance could impact multiple storylines simultaneously. What interests me the most is Boruto's reaction. In recent chapters, he has consistently shown a cold and calculated mindset. He thinks ahead, he carefully analyzes the consequences of his actions. He tries not to let emotions control him, but all of that seemed to disappear the moment he had to confront Code. Because of that, he ended up retreating, and now his focus may ultimately shift towards Sarada. I still don't fully understand why the authors chose to write it that way. I understand that a kidnapping might not exist solely for Code's development or Boruto's development. It could also be necessary for Sarada's own growth and the evolution of her Susanoo. Perhaps the authors are preparing a situation where Sarada becomes the central figure of the next major arc. An unexpected twist could completely change the rules of the story. And if we put everything together, the physical contact between Hidari and Sarada, the mechanics of claw marks, the Shikamaru precedent, the connection between Code and the Shinju, Koji's prophecy, and the visual hints on the Chapter 34 cover, we end up with a picture. I genuinely believe this theory deserves to be considered, and now I'm really curious to hear what you think. Do you believe Hidari could have secretly left a hidden mark on Sarada? And will Code finally become a truly dangerous antagonist?